It was early '95, and R.E.M. hadn't toured in 5 years. But somehow their absence from the stage further fueled the band's mystique. When R.E.M. finally hit the road again to promote Monster, they drew the biggest crowds of their lives.
We played to like 90,000 people several times, and we had lights and a show, and we had just about everything you really need to play to a lot of people, and it was great.
As the Monster Tour picked up steam, it seemed as if R.E.M. could do no wrong.
We were a very lucky band for 15 years. You know, we had no major illnesses. We, had very few crises, I think, in terms of what happens to most bands. And basically, life caught up to us all in 1 year.
It turned out to be the tour of attrition. Everybody but Peter ended up in the hospital.
On March 1st, 1995, the Monster turned on R.E.M. In the middle of a show that night in Lausanne, Switzerland, Bill Berry stood up from behind his drum kit and then slowly collapsed with crippling head pains.
Bill was supposed to come forward and play bass, and he came out, and it was like the Night of the Living Dead. His eyes were wide open, he was holding his head, and he was swaying, and he just collapsed on me, and it's like, Jesus, Bill, what's wrong? He goes, I've got a migraine. I said, I've had migraines before. This is it's the worst migraine I've ever had.
It hurt. It felt like a bowling ball hit my head, and the lights kind of dimmed, and next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I remember every bit of it. I didn't pass out. I didn't go into shock or anything. And it was scary.
Berry's migraine didn't go away. So the next morning, he checked into Lausanne's University Hospital, where his doctors discovered that his headache was actually an aneurysm, an artery in his brain which was swelling up and ready to burst. Bill Berry's life was in danger, and he was rushed into surgery.
It was just intense. We were in Switzerland, and I didn't know if he was going to die, if he was going to be paralyzed, if he was just going to lose his memory.
During the operation, doctors discovered a second brain aneurysm. The delicate surgery to repair both arteries took 6 hours to complete.
It was miraculous that we were in Lausanne, Switzerland when he collapsed with a brain aneurysm. We were 2 miles from the greatest brain surgeons in the world.
Morning found me laughing.
When Bill woke up the next morning, his vital signs were strong, and so was his spirit. The operation was a success.
It was like my brain was fine. As soon as I woke up, Michael was actually in the room. And I went, all right, I know where I am. I know what I've been through. I remember my social security number. I remember my birthday. I remember my phone number. All my parts move, and I was like, wow, it was a happy, happy moment.
Berry had to stay in the hospital for 4 more weeks while doctors monitored his recovery. With more big shows looming across Europe, concert promoters pressured R.E.M. to hire a new drummer and get back on tour.
I don't know why you mean to me.
Virtually everyone is saying you can't just not do these dates. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not the way this band works. I mean, I'm not going to go leave Bill in a hospital dying and go, higgly-piggly down the road and do a rock show. Forget it.
The band voted to stop the tour and remain in Switzerland to stay at Bill's side.
At that point, I thought the tour was over. Right? I just thought, well, if Bill recovers, maybe he'll want to do something in a couple of years. And he was just like, I'll be ready in 2 weeks. And we were just like, that's insane, Bill. They just cracked your head open like a coconut.
But Berry proved to be nearly as good as his word. 6 weeks after his collapse, Bill was back behind the drums, and R.E.M. was back in business.
Well, yeah, would you like to be the guy that ended the R.E.M. tour halfway through because you had a little boo-boo in your head? No.
A relieved and rejuvenated R.E.M. renamed the Monster Tour Aneurysm 95, but their troubles were far from over. While back on tour in Europe that July, Mike Mills fell ill with severe stomach pains. Soon he was in the hospital for surgery to remove an intestinal scar. Once again, the Monster Tour stopped in its tracks.
It's frustrating because you want to make the shows. You're out there partly because you love it, but you're also doing a job, and you don't want to not do the job.
It was just hysterical, at some point it was like, Jesus, what next?
Michael Stipe would soon find out. 1 month after Mike Mills' operation, R.E.M. flew to the Czech capital of Prague for their final show of the tour, a concert they'd postponed for illness twice before.
We flew in and did a show just in Prague, just for the fans there, because we wanted to make good on that, playing a show in that part of the world. It made total sense to us, but that's the night that Michael came down with his hernia.
Now it was Stipe's turn to go to the hospital. Once there, he had to make a decision. Either undergo an operation for his hernia right away or sing that night in pain.
I'm in this hospital with Michael in the hallway. These kids walk up, and they see Michael, and they go, "Is the show still going to be on?" And Michael goes, "Yeah, the show's still happening." He's kind of sucking it up at that point. They do the show. We get him on an airplane. He's operated on at Emory Hospital in Atlanta the next morning.
On November 19th, 1995, the monster was finally laid to rest.
It wasn't that hard, you know. Bill almost died. Short of that, you know, it was a fine tour.
Call me a leper.
R.E.M. had traveled to hell and back. Now they would be rewarded. In July of 1996, Warner Brothers re-signed the band to a new record deal for $80 million, the biggest recording contract in pop music history. But one member of R.E.M.'s extended family was absent from the celebration. 2 months earlier, Jefferson Holt abruptly resigned as R.E.M.'s manager after 15 years with the band. Chuck Phillips of the Los Angeles Times reported that R.E.M. forced Holt to leave following accusations of sexual harassment by an employee of the band. Holt denied the charges. A legal agreement prohibits all parties from discussing the case. Jefferson Holt was the first member of the R.E.M. family to leave. He wouldn't be the last.
After the surgery, the brain thing, I mean, I had a lot of time. I was laying in a bed for 2-3 weeks and just couldn't do anything but think. And I reassessed some things, you know, and being at home and not traveling is a lot more important to me now than it used to be. And I'm really happy where I am.
I'm out of here.
Next, it's the end of the band as we know it.
I'm just like a fan, like anybody else, except I'm the #1 R.E.M. fan.
When Behind the Music continues. R.E.M. gathered in Athens in the fall of 1997 to begin work on their 11th album titled Up. After the tumultuous events of the past few years, it seemed that the band was ready to make a fresh start. But as the sessions got underway, Bill Berry was nowhere to be found.
They had been recording for about a week, and Bill wasn't there. And I was going, you know, where's Bill? Why isn't he here?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Bill finally did show up, but it wasn't to make music. Instead, he came to say goodbye. After 17 extraordinary years, Bill told his closest friends that he was going to retire, but only on one condition.
He said, "Guys, I want to quit, but I won't quit if you're going to break up. I would rather stick it out and be essentially a good soldier and keep going for a couple more years, because I don't want to be breaking the band up."
I thought he was insane. I mean, I was like, Bill, you can't be in your right mind if you're thinking that. But, you know, he talked to us and he convinced us all that he was in his right mind. He's not depressed. He's not reacting to anything. He just didn't want to do it anymore.
He made a very courageous decision. I mean, no matter how much you're disliking it, to throw it all away is amazingly difficult. And he did what he wanted to do, and now he's doing what he wants to do, and he's happy as a clam, and I'm happy for him.
I would have gone through therapy or something and would have, really, I would have stayed. I wasn't going to let the band break up over it. And, you know, they weren't going to do that. They wanted to keep doing it. I didn't. So everybody's happy.
R.E.M. discussed making a record unlike any they'd made before. Now, with Bill gone, they'd have to. The recording sessions for Up proved to be the most emotionally draining of the band's career.
I think there were points when none of the three of us thought that the record would ever get finished, that the whole thing would just collapse and dissolve, and we would no longer exist, and it would just be over. And what a kind of crappy way to end.
Hot off the press.
What do you think?
A year later, R.E.M. emerged with their first album as a trio, and no one was prouder of their achievement than Bill Berry.
Boy, when I heard it, I felt like a chump. I mean, I'm sure I must look like one. I split and they make their best record.
Today, Bill Berry is enjoying a very different life. He's traded in his drums for a tractor and taken up crop farming.
My existence now is a lot more mundane than it was. The little tasks that I do from day to day wouldn't even be worth telling you now. They're so boring. I'm going to move firewood later today. And if I'm really energetic tomorrow, I'm going to clean out my barn. I pick up my dog, throw her in the pickup truck, and we go out antique hunting. I can do that kind of stuff now. I can. It's really great not to have a big, huge project to have to look forward to.
Beside yourself, Bill Brady is gonna stay.
Back in '79, a foursome known as R.E.M. set out on a journey to make music without rules or boundaries. Friends who never lost faith in their dream or in each other. Today's R.E.M., Michael Stipe, Peter Buck, and Mike Mills, are determined to carry on that mission.
Anybody can be a celebrity. Anybody can make headlines with some outrageous stunt. Anybody can have all the other crap that comes along with being a musician or being in a band. If the work doesn't support all that crap, then it's just a lot of crap. There's nothing to it, you know.
People who connect with their music connect with the band. It's not about liking the way that one of them dresses or liking a political philosophy endorsed by a member of the band. That might be part of it. That might add to the appeal, but the bottom line is the music.
They obviously love their jobs. They don't need it for the money. They don't need it for the attention. Obviously, they get as much as they want, and you know, when they put it out, they get it back, and when they want to go back to Athens and hide, they do.
We still have a deep reservoir of affection and feeling for one another. It's still really a great experience for us. I don't have to go out to discos with Michael to be his friend, and I don't have to golf with Mike. We don't have to live in each other's pockets to have a really close relationship. And after all these years, I'm closer to them than virtually anyone on earth except my children.
Como se vê, a brava rapaziada de Atlanta sobreviveu às armadilhas da fama, à invasão da mídia e às expectativas econômicas do mercado. E chegaram ao ano 2000 como uma das grandes forças da música pop americana.